All right, ladies and gentlemen, are there ladies out there watching these shows? I don't know about that. I'm going to do my today's video on a New York band from the 1960s called the Fugs. I understand that not too many of you are even aware of who the Fugs are, but since I'd assume that most people don't even watch videos about bands that they don't know about, those who will watch the video will know who the Fugs are or were. Okay, so a bit of background. The Fugs were a, oh God, how to explain them? They were like a comedic band of poets, kind of ersatz folk rockers with lots of smut in the lyrics. And they were like an underground band. People say arguably the first underground band to really, get a record deal and stuff like that. They changed labels, though, several times in their short career from 65 to 69, I guess. I don't remember when the live album came out. Anyway, there was nothing quite like them, although there have been comparisons to the Mothers of Invention. But they were not, Frank Zappa was always, a studio perfectionist and took great pride in his musicianship, his ability to play guitar, and the musicianship of his band. And they were very tightly rehearsed and whatnot. The Fugs were almost anarchic, especially the early Fugs in their nature, and were more akin to a punk rock version of the Mothers. Way more political, too. These guys are almost radical in their political beliefs. So they have a short discography. This will be a short video. I'm doing this whole thing with just the two albums which came out back in the 90s, and that's the first time I ever heard the Fugs. So I did not grow up with these guys. And then the old electromagnetic steamboat reprise recordings box set. That's all I have. That's all you need, arguably. So anyways, let me start. The Fugs' first album, it's got other titles too, but that's what it's called on the CD, with sizzling additional tracks from the early Fugs, is a really good record for nothing was like this in 65. It's this is the album 1 through 10, and then it just got tons of additional tracks, including, these were not the first recordings the band made. There was another album which came out after this called Virgin Fugs, which the actual band did not agree to the release of. It kind of reminds me of the Small Faces video I just did, where they released the album from the beginning when they were leaving their record label. The band did not agree to the release of that. But that's actually a good album. Virgin Fugs, I don't even know if Virgin Fugs is available on CD. It might be. It wasn't in the old days when I was listening to these, to the Fugs from this era. But several of those tracks are on here, all right, as bonus tracks. But anyways, back to this album. This is real good. The more pornographic stuff has not dated well, as indeed, I don't think any of their sex songs hold up. What was probably, giggle-worthy and shocking to teenagers at the time. It's just kind of, I don't know, low-hanging fruit, pandering to the lowest common denominator to 21st century ears. But having said all that, some songs on here I think are like, underground New York classics. Slum Goddess, Supergirl, I Couldn't Get High, and Boobs a Lot and Nothing. All right, yeah, okay, Boobs a Lot is a sex song. I remember hearing that on the Dr. Demento show in the 70s. So that's like half the album, right? The other stuff, it's fine. They can barely play their instruments here. These guys were poets, or for the most part. That's Thule Kupferberg. He's one of the main guys. He was already in his early 40s, I think. Ed Sanders. I think that's Ed Sanders. All right. And Ken Weaver was the other guy. But mostly when people think of the Fugs, they think of Kupferberg and Sanders. So I do recommend the Fugs' first album. Check it out. I assume you can still get this for a reasonable price. But even better is the Fugs, or the Fugs' second album, whatever you want to call it. It was originally just called the Fugs. I think this is the original cover of the album. This was on ESP Records. It's just like that first disc that I showed you. The first 10 tracks are the album. Then you get some live stuff. And then they were signed to Atlantic Records briefly after this. But they recorded, like, I think a whole album's worth of material, which was never released. Well, anyways, I'm ahead of myself. That, I think, is some of this stuff right here. Anyways, this Fugs second album, whatever, 1966, could be their best album. It's got the lowest, filler to good songs ratio. Frenzy's great. Skin Flowers, Group Grope, Dirty Old Man, Kill for Peace is one of their classics. Morning Morning is a Thule song that Richie Havens covered. It's on the Mixed Bag album. That's actually a good album if you've never picked up on Richie Havens, who played at Woodstock. Doing All Right is great. And then there's the Virgin Forest. It's a long song. That's 11 and a half minutes. No, almost. It's over 11 minutes long. That's a long track, though, for 1966, guys. That's, 66 is the year that the Stones did Going Home, which is just a blues jam, which goes on and on. Dylan did Satellite of the Lowlands, Love did Revelation, and the Fugs did Virgin Forest. It doesn't quite work, these guys were very experimental and they took chances, and so, something like that's not going to always fly. But the whole album is pretty good and it's well worth your time. And these two make two nice purchases if you just want like an introduction to the band. And then if you like them, go on. All right. They signed to Atlantic. The album that they recorded was not released. And then all of their reprise recordings are on here. It's 3 discs. This is a Rhino handmade thing. It was limited edition. What is that? Number 367 out of 5,000. So, I don't know how much this is worth. Maybe if you're lucky, people never bought or cared for the Fugs, so you get this for a good price. But anyways, it's 3 discs and it's several albums. So I'm gonna have to use the book to show you that's Thule, Sanders, and Ken Weaver. To show you the album covers. So the first one is called Tenderness Junction. That's the album cover right there. It came out in either 1967 or 1968, depending upon which online source you believe. It's a strong record. By this point, more people had joined the band. They've got better musicians, okay? So there's a more refined and, studio approach to the record. I like it. It's perhaps their strongest album on reprise, although there's all big, It Crawled Into My Hand contingent of people who think that's their best album. So let me tell you what's on here. Tenderness Junction. Okay, tune in, turn on, tune in, drop out. Great song, the Timothy Leary mantra. The Garden is Open. Wet Dream is like a 1950s kind of, doo-wop parody / homage, almost like what the Mothers would do. But this, again, gets to be, when you say Sit on My Face, the Mothers would sometimes stoop to that kind of humor, especially in the 70s. Hare Krishna is interesting. There's a track where they're trying to exorcise the evil spirits from the Pentagon, which is a live recording from October of 67. Dover Beach. And then there's Fingers of the Sun is nice. And then there's another long track at the end, Aphrodite Mass, in 5 sections, which, if anything, doesn't even work as well as the long track on their second album. But like I said, cut for cut, it's pretty good. Definitely in 68, though, was It Crawled Into My Hand, Honest. So I'll show you what that is. That's a real, well-produced album where you got the Harry Belafonte singers and all these musicians. on there. And it's the last album that I really stand by. I think that's all that unless that picture comes from the album, I don't know. That's also pretty strong. So let's see what's on that one. Crystal Liaison. That's a real good one. That's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like a parody of psychedelic music or something like that. Or, when you're listening to these albums or these CDs, go online and read the lyrics, because there's a lot going on in these recordings, especially this album, Crawled Into My Hand, which you don't always pick up the first few times that you play it. Ramses the Second is Dead, My Love is like a country tune. They're like mixing genres. Ed Sanders was always into country music. The Burial Waltz that's a big production. Wide Wide River, it's a river of shit, folks. That's the joke. Johnny Piss Off Meets the Red Angel is another one of Ed's country type things. Marijuana is it's like a Latin Catholic mass thing when they just recite different names for weed. Leprechaun, When the Mode of the Music Changed. These are all, I recall all these songs. And then it gets into a bunch of, side 2 is a lot of really, it's like tracks that could be only a few seconds long to, normal size tracks, which last a few minutes. And anyways, I think that the suite, or the montage, I guess might be a better word, of all those tracks is what draws listeners into this record, because it's quite an ambitious undertaking. Okay, so after that, after 68, after their first 4 albums, 5 if you want to count Virgin Fugs, they go downhill just a bit on the last one. It is The Belle of Avenue A, which is a more understated affair, more of a roots kind of feel, more Ed's kind of dominating with his country stuff. Both Thule and Ed would release solo albums at around this time, and Thule was a poet, and Ed's solo work does kind of have that well, not even kind of, it does go in that country rock maybe direction. The Belle of Avenue A isn't as good. It's the one I have played the least. The title track is about like a trucker who gets involved with a hippie chick, a clash of different cultures. There are a few decent tracks, though. Let me see if I can find the track listing on here. God, there's not that many songs, is there? Well, no, actually, yeah. There's about the usual amount. So, Bum Song, Dust Devil, Chicago, 4 minutes to 12 is interesting. Reminds me of that Johnny Cash song. Queen of the Nile, Flower Children. Yeah, that's actually not that bad. Yodeling Yippie. Okay, and then they throw the Golden Filth album on at the end. That's a live record. Either came out in 69 or 70, I can't remember. It's a live record on the Reprise label, but it's weird because if memory serves, the songs on here are all from the early Fugs era, the pre-Reprise era. I guess you get to hear them, with a full band arrangement. But again, it's another one for some reason that I haven't played a lot. So, that's it for the Fugs. In the end, not as important as the Mothers of Invention, but there weren't that many comedic rock bands of that caliber at the time besides those two. Of course, England had the Bonzo Dog Doodah band. They were great too. There's a really outstanding box set of theirs which just came out recently, which I don't have, but if I ever do, I'll do a show on them. Although I have all their stuff anyway, so I could do a show. But anyways, the Fugs are certainly worth remembering. You're never going to hear this stuff on the radio. I never have. Maybe in New York. I don't know. But anyways, they were worth a short little video. So I'll be around later on to do another one. In fact, I might do 2 more before the end of the week since I had this whole week off. It's spring break. Matt, signing off.